Hi everyone. The topic this week comes from a dear friend of mine by the name of Renee Freeman. You may know her if you are involved with ATD Los Angeles. And she is the director of technology over there. She gave me a great idea for this topic and basically asked me to do a video about basically how do you put together a design portfolio if you're an e-learning developer or an instructional designer. So I think this is an awesome topic and very pertinent, especially if you're going into consulting or if you're, looking for an employer. So I'll talk a little bit about how I handle my portfolio, and I would love it if you can contribute ideas as well by commenting in the field below. So the way I do mine, I basically keep everything that I have ever done. And I think that's really the key to having a good portfolio, is to just start with everything you've got. That doesn't necessarily mean that you take everything that you have to every interview or every client meeting. What that means is you basically lay everything out that you have, and you think about that client, think about their branding, think about the project that they've got you working on, and think about what would tell them the best story about your experience. So I go through everything that I've got every single time, and I put together a different portfolio every time I go out. So every interview is different. And what I do also ahead of time is I anticipate bringing that client more material than they're going to look through, and I organize it in such a way that they can quickly get through all of it. So basically when I walk in, if I'm talking to anybody who needs to review my past work, I have a little file folder, and I'll put a link in the description below of some that you can use. But basically, I walk in, I whip that thing out, I can basically put everything on the table that I have with me very quickly. And the good part about that is if you're putting out your portfolio in a kind of a paper format, and it's physical, it's something that the client can touch, you can have them go through that as you're kind of telling them the story of your experience. It's less awkward for the interviewer, having been on the interviewing side, to have something to do while you're talking to them. It's a better experience overall for them. Also, if you've got somebody who hasn't interviewed a lot of people, you're actually making them less nervous because you're giving them something to do, like an activity. And what I do is basically I'll put out all of the samples of things that I've worked on. I also sometimes put out samples of things like collateral that's associated with a program that I've worked on previously. I'll say, I didn't design this piece of paper necessarily, but let me tell you a story about this program. And I use everything in my portfolio to tell a story. So it's not like you're just presenting a piece of paper and you're going, isn't this newsletter nice, or isn't this course nice? Tell the story, have a couple of lines of, the client wanted this to look a particular way, this was their branding, this was their vision, they wanted me to work with this team, or I brought in subcontractors and built this from scratch. Have a background that you can tell them, because a plot is a lot more interesting than just handing them the final product and having them interpret it for themselves. The other thing that I would say about doing a portfolio is don't be afraid to bring more materials than you need. It's better to look like you've had a lot of experience than less experience. And if you are starting out and you don't have a lot of samples to work with, don't be afraid to create your own things and basically say, yeah, I didn't create this for a Fortune 500 company, but I studied their branding and this is what I would do for them if, or look at the client, if you're really gutsy, and say, okay, if I was already working for you, what would I create for you? And give them a prototype, something pretty small, but at least it captures the idea of what your vision would be for a larger project. The other thing that I would say, obviously all of this stuff is kind of related to paper products, something that you can hand them and they can touch. The other thing that you run into a lot if you work in e-learning development or instructional design, if you work as a contractor, you may run into government contracts and basically clients who place restrictions on their materials, meaning they will not allow you to have a copy of the e-learning course that you're working on, something like that. To the extent that you can, without violating your contract, it is important to still try to pull pieces of things so that you can at least prove that you did the work. It's basically evidence, even if you can't show the entire project. So even if you're just getting a screen capture, even if it's a video that you take on your phone that's very low res, at least you've got proof that you did that project. Only use that to the extent that you're legally capable of using it in your portfolio, but at least you have evidence that you did the work. The other thing you can do, if you can't put something in your portfolio, at least make reference to it on your resume or in some kind of a written format where maybe you don't use the client's name. If you are using written collateral and pieces of it are proprietary, but you would like to show the overall design mock-up, be sensitive to your client. Redact the information that is proprietary before you print out what you've got. Put white boxes or whatever you need to do to be sensitive to that client. If you've only got a print copy of whatever it is, you sometimes have to go a little bit lower tech. I've even just covered things over with a sticky note or something like that, just so that they don't see the proprietary information, and then you can copy it, and at least, it's not a high-res version, but they can at least see the design mock-up. So there are different things that you can do. I hope this helps you assemble an awesome, phenomenal design or development portfolio, and I hope you'll share your ideas for assembling a portfolio in the comments section below. If you have an interest in learning technology and e-learning development overall, please subscribe to this channel, and I look forward to talking to you more. Thank you.